Breaking tonight, America's top Homeland Security official questioned about playing politics at the expense of our safety after issuing an explicit terror warning to American shoppers shortly before accusing Congress of putting people at risk. Good evening and welcome to the Kelly File. I'm Shannon Bream in for Megyn Kelly tonight. The al-Qaeda group known as Al-Shabaab releasing a video this weekend calling on followers to attack American malls, including Minnesota's famous Mall of the Americas. And considering that this is the group, you'll remember that once launched a deadly assault on a mall in Kenya, killing dozens of people. Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson seemed to be taking the threat very seriously. Here he is yesterday.
If anyone is planning to go to the Mall of America today, they've got to be particularly careful. Anytime a terrorist organization calls for an attack on a specific place, we've got to take that seriously.
What a difference 24 hours makes, as the White House press secretary takes to the podium today to knock down both the idea that this was a credible threat and the suggestion that the warning was really meant for members of Congress. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry was there asking the questions today. He joins us live from Washington. Hi, Ed.
Good evening, Shannon. It's really a remarkable warning from the administration because remember, the president himself has recently downplayed these terror threats, telling Vox.com in that interview this is media hype, that if it bleeds, it leads. And so when the Homeland Security Secretary said there's a specific threat, if you go to the Mall of America, be extra careful today. That was so specific, it seemed to run counter to what the administration has repeatedly done. Then, as you note, the White House, State Department today, both sort of gently walking that back and saying there's no specific threat at all. Interesting, because the president spoke to the nation's governors and said, look, if Jay Johnson's Homeland Security Department is not fully funded, national security in this country, there'll be a direct impact on that. So I pressed Josh Earnest at the briefing today. Does that mean there's a connection here, that Jay Johnson was getting people riled up because of that political fight over money? Listen.
So if there's not a specific threat, why was the secretary suggesting to people be extra careful if you go to that mall? Did it have anything to do with this DHS funding fight to sort of scare Congress more to get that money to say, hey, there's threats out there?
No, it did not.
Now, it's interesting, though, because Secretary Johnson had his own news conference today, and he seemed to connect the dots a bit by saying it's going to be harder to stay on top of national security if he doesn't get this money. And he added that's especially not good given the mall threat. Janet?
All right, Ed Henry live at the White House. Thank you, Ed. Joining us now to react, Mark Thiessen, Fox News contributor and fellow with the American Enterprise Institute. All right, Mark, good to see you tonight. What do you make of what some would say are differing messages from the administration?
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that they're politicizing it and that the threat is real. I think those two things are both possibly true. I mean, look, the reality is when an al-Qaeda affiliate one of the things I learned from President Bush, working with President Bush, is you have to take the words of the enemy seriously. When an al-Qaeda affiliate says that it intends to attack America and names a specific target, you take that seriously. And the reality is, yes, Josh Earnest admitted that there wasn't a specific credible threat. There also wasn't a specific credible threat in 2009 when al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula sent the underwear bomber to blow up a plane over Detroit and almost succeeded. So, you know, at that time, we didn't even know that al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula had developed the intent or capability of attacking us here at home. Al-Shabaab has made clear they have the intent of attacking us. As you pointed, as you showed in your video, they've carried out an attack on a mall that killed 67 people, and they've recruited dozens and dozens of American citizens as suicide bombers, including from the Minneapolis area, which is where the Mall of America is located. So I think we have to take this threat seriously. That doesn't mean they're not politicizing it or using it for political advantage, but it's a very serious threat.
I noticed today that the language coming from Josh Earnest at the White House was very similar to what we heard from Jen Psaki over at the State Department, not necessarily saying there's not a threat, but saying there's not a credible plot. Is that parsing?
Yeah, they are parsing. I mean, what they're saying is that we don't have specific threat information. But again, you know, what we have seen in history is that when the enemy, over time, the enemy constantly tells us what they plan to do. Osama bin Laden issued 2 fatwas in the 1990s saying that he planned to attack America and declaring war on us. We ignored him, and the result was 9/11. We've had the leaders of ISIS make absolutely clear they intend to attack America. They have said, my message to the Americans is, soon we will be in conflict, and the Brothers of Islam have waited for this day. We need to take that seriously. And now we have Al-Shabaab, which is an al-Qaeda affiliate, saying that they plan to attack us here at home. So I think that we have to take those threats seriously, whether or not it's a specific threat information. There is intent and capability that we have to take seriously.
All right, Mark, a jillion years ago, when I interned on Capitol Hill, the member I worked for was very involved with the terrorism task force. This is pre-9/11. Yes, I'm dating myself. Way before 9/11. But there was such a stream of constant threats coming in every single day. And the fact is, we can't run every single one of them down and treat every single one of them the same. So, you know, how do you make those decisions as the administration? I mean, they have to make judgment calls.
They do have to make judgment calls, and they have to track down. But a good place to start is when Al-Qaeda issues a video saying we want to attack the Mall of America. And has a history of attacking malls. Just like Al-Qaeda, the core Al-Qaeda that attacked us in 9/11 has a history of trying to attack us with planes, starting with the 9/11 attacks, then with the Richard Reed shoe bomb, then with the underwear bomber. Al-Qaeda likes planes. This group likes malls.
Right.
And so I think we have to take it seriously.
Yeah, they have proven that in the past. All right, Mark, always good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shannon.
Also here to react, a combat veteran who was one of the first 2 females to be elected to U.S. Congress after serving in and leading a platoon in Iraq. Hawaii Democrat Tulsi Gabbard, a member of the House Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committees. Thank you, first of all, for being with us and for your service on multiple fronts, in the service and now on the Hill. You should maybe get some combat pay for what goes on up there as well. But let me ask you about this, because there are those who say we're not getting a united message from this administration about exactly what the threat is and exactly what we're going to do about it.
I think the bottom line here is that credible threats against the safety and security of the American people must be taken seriously. So if there is a credible threat, it must be let known to the American people not only what the threat is, but what they should be doing about it and what precautions need to be taken. If the threats are not credible, then they shouldn't be put out in a way that makes them look like they are. Really what I think is at the core here is that we can't be playing, neither party should be playing partisan politics with an issue that is as nonpartisan and is as important as the safety and security of the American people. So let's look at the situation that we are in right now, and that is that we have various Islamic extremist groups, whether they're called ISIS, whether they're called Al-Qaeda or Al-Shabaab, that are posing a threat not only in the Middle East, but to people around the world. You look at the horrific attacks in Paris as a perfect example. So again, if there are credible threats, they must be taken seriously and must be followed through on and prevented. But if not, let's stay focused on exactly who our enemy is and what we need to defeat them. Again, keeping at the forefront, keeping the American people safe.
But do you think we've gotten a clear message on that, on exactly what the threat is, who the threats are coming from, what we call them, how we identify them? You know that going into combat. I mean, you have to know who your enemy is and name it so you can defeat it. Exactly.
You're exactly right. And I think that's what's important as we look at some of these messages and some of these threats that are being posed by different groups, whether it's Boko Haram and a variety of others that go by different names. Just a few years ago, there were 20 plus groups who were fueled by this Islamic extremist ideology and conducting these terrorist attacks. Today, there are over 40. So by identifying the single common element amongst them and recognizing that the vast majority of terrorist attacks conducted around the world for over the last decade have been conducted by groups who are fueled by this radical Islamic ideology, then once that's identified, we understand it, then we can come up with a winning strategy to defeat it, both militarily as well as ideologically, and that's how we defeat them.
And really quickly, before we're out of time, why do you think you seem comfortable identifying it and calling it that, why do you think some in the administration won't say those same words?
There may be fears of some sort, but I think that they're unfounded. I think recognizing and being very accurate and very specific and understanding this must be a core part of our strategy to defeat those who seek to do harm to the American people is exactly how we must be looking at this issue and remain very focused on it.
Congresswoman and combat veteran, thank you on all those fronts. Good to see you tonight.
Thanks, Shannon. Aloha.
Well, a fierce debate over fairness tonight after a reporter asks a question that Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker doesn't want to answer. Wait until you see how the mainstream media is reacted in the hours since. Plus, new evidence that the fight over the president's immigration order could get very ugly. Judge Napolitano is here on what the administration is now hinting at doing. Plus, the Denver Police Department in the middle of a firestorm over allegations of racism. We will report, you decide, we'll show you the video. Is it a bad cop or a bad case of political correctness? We'll leave it up to you.
We're trying to do our job. Walk around to your family. Walk around. I'm not a walk around to your family.